Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Juggernaut. The game in the background is Shadow of War, and today I'm going to talk to you about hunting. Namely, I try and avoid topics that are, well, controversial, political, or generally problematic in nature one way or another, and this is certainly nowadays a pretty hotly debated topic, whether hunters are human beings and deserve to be, loved, cherished, respected, bottom line ignored, or should they all be executed for promoting animal cruelty and stuff. You'd think I'm joking, but no, there's you'd be surprised how much visceral toxicity and hatred you'd see directed towards people that hunt. So here's the thing, right? There's a difference between not liking hunting and, for ethical reasons. You believe that cruelty towards animals is unjustified nowadays, and people like that are usually vegan or vegetarian at the very least, and I respect that. I genuinely do. I think people like that are... it makes sense, right? They stick to what they believe in. They have some firm, often passionate beliefs about animal rights and about food, about what is or rather what should and should not be considered food, about their ethical and moral code and stuff like that, and that's fine, that's great. I genuinely, I don't mean that like in a derogatory sense whatsoever. I genuinely respect that, because you stick to your beliefs, and I might not necessarily agree with you, but I respect it. And I understand that often people like that do not want to associate themselves, talk, or listen to people that think otherwise. It's too big of a gap, right, that is between, I guess, me and you, right? But allow me, if that's the case, I mean, fine, I'm not going to change your mind, but allow me to just, for a second, extend an olive branch, if you're one of those more, well, I hope you don't mind me saying, a little bit more radical people in that sense, right? That you might not want to associate at all with people that consume meat, or do not agree with your stance, or something along those lines, right? Allow me to, like I said, extend an olive branch and tell you that we have a common enemy. You might not believe it, but we do. And that's what I want to talk about today, because stuff like this and comments like these I've seen on Twitter, I've seen on Reddit, I've seen... they came up on a podcast I was listening to, and honestly pissed the living bejesus out of me, because people speak from a place of ignorance, and they're very, very passionate in their ignorance. And if you like something, be it video games, weapons, hunting, guns, whatever, and, I do like hunting. I do. I don't think that there's anything inherently evil or wrong with it, provided, of course, that it is done legally, that if you're doing something against the law in terms of hunting, then yeah, I think those people should definitely be punished to the full extent of the law, but ethical hunting in terms, again, of it being legal and according to the ethical laws of hunting. I'm fully aware that some people will say there is no such thing as ethical hunting, and again, olive branch, right? Let me explain a little bit, and then we'll come to an understanding together, I feel like. Today, and I mean, it happened today, but like it happened a few days ago as well. It's been, I've seen it often enough to make me want to make a video on it. Sorry. I've seen people say that there's no reason for you to hunt if you have food at home. And yeah, okay, so here's the thing. Hunting in general is one of the oldest human activities. It's one of the first things that human-like creatures learned to do, right? Hunter-gatherer species, they hunted and gathered. And yeah, I understand the logic behind it, that we no longer need hunting, and we can now just rely on vegetables and become vegetarian or vegan for our nutritional needs, and that there is no need to harm animals anymore. Like I said, that's fine. But the stuff I'm coming across is that if you can buy pork and you can buy chicken, stuff like that, at the local supermarket, then there's no need for you to go to hunt, to go hunt, and that if you go hunt, you are, and then a whole series of outrageous insults, one of which was that you are it was a homosexual slur, right? And I've seen that, like, on multiple occasions, spoken by different people. And I'm not even going to go down into how much that doesn't make sense. Even if you're going to go with the awful, stereotypical understanding of homosexuality, then dare I say hunting is one of the least stereotypically homosexual things one can do, but like I said, let's not even go down that road right now. The fools will come here, will come down to our level and beat us with experience, right? That's the main problem. It's so bizarre, and yet comes from a place of complete ignorance. The fact that I need to explain to 20, 30, sometimes 40-year-old somethings that the meat you buy in the grocery store does not come from a tree, and instead comes from a living animal, is not only concerning, it is mind-boggling and honestly just terrifying at the same time, right? Because what you're saying is that buying and like I said, I've seen at least a couple of dozen comments like this echoed on like podcasts and tweets and by fairly popular people as well. There is even a celebrity in celebrity. Yeah, I guess a celebrity in my country that pretty much echoed these views as well recently by attacking another celebrity for going out to hunt and taking pictures of that for his Instagram. You wouldn't have heard of any of these people; they're local celebrities, but yeah, regardless of the fact, right? This is not just a couple of morons on the internet. This is actually gaining some traction, and I'm scared of the fact that there are people that don't see a problem with such a stance and don't see anything illogical about it. So what they're basically saying is they'd rather support the meat industry, which is responsible for, in more industrialized parts of the world, keeping animals in captivity and forcing them to live their lives on a conveyor belt, while they, just breed them and kill them in an endless cycle. So they'd rather support that by buying meat from the, local supermarket than going out or either themselves or paying for the meat of something that has been hunted in the wild, that lived a happy life for many, many years and was then shot with, a rifle, an arrow or something by a hunter in the wilderness. Now, you might argue that it's the same thing, and again, I would disagree to that as well, because it's on an ethical level as well, it's different, right? One of the animals lived a happy life, was free to do its own thing, it survived in the wilderness, it reproduced, maybe not, and it just, did its own thing, and then it got shot by something, and then you're gonna eat it now. On the other hand, you have, well, the meat industry, which, luckily, in my country isn't the most industrialized ever, like I said, so there is a bit of a difference to what you'd see in maybe some of the more developed countries, and even then it is often exaggerated, but still, there's a big difference between the two. Correct me if I'm wrong. But even if there isn't, to suggest that the industrial side is better, more ethical, more moral, is, I don't understand it. I just genuinely don't. It's kind of bloody terrifying, and I think it speaks to maybe a little bit of a wider issue at hand, that we love, I say we as a global culture right now on the internet, right? We love to virtue signal. We love to tell people that they're wrong about one thing or another. We love to explain how we're better at things than they are, but often this comes without a hint of understanding or without a hint of knowledge whatsoever. And that's... that's not good. Let's just, without meandering around the point too much, that is just not good. Anyways, one more thing though that I wanted to mention in this whole video. This is one of the oldest activities that humans have done, like I already said. And nowadays, obviously, it's shunned quite a bit, because that's sort of the spirit of the times, right? Hegel would call it the zeitgeist. That's literally what it means. But I understand that. I understand that there is things change and that there is a difference now, and that I'm not even against things changing and maybe even certain practices dying out and stuff like that. I'm not, stubbornly clinging to the past. But what I am saying is that people that are calling for, banning hunting altogether and stuff like that, at the same time see no problem whatsoever with consuming industrial meat. And I'm really struggling to understand the ethical difference between the two. Now, I've seen it mentioned that the reason hunters enjoy hunting is because they, enjoy the act of the hunt, the killing of the animal and stuff like that. I'll tell you what, from personal experience, that's the last thing on most hunters' minds. At least here, locally, the thing that they think about the most is the lunch that they're going to have and the drinks that they're going to have when the whole thing is done. Because there's usually a lot of people, and it's a whole big get-together, and they cook meals, and they, drink and laugh and have fun, and they gather in a... Usually it's like some sort of building, but sometimes it's out in the wilderness as well. That's what they're looking forward to the most. Most of the people that go there, okay, maybe not most, but a significant number of people that go there do not fire a single shot and do not find anything to kill whatsoever. Also, that there is this misconception that the only thing that hunters do is hunt, and you would be, I guess, in some respect forgiven for thinking something like that, because, well, it's sort of in the name, right? But if you don't understand what it is that hunting clubs do for nature, for the local biosphere, and for everything, then you really, really shouldn't comment on it and call for them to be banned, right? At least familiarize yourself with what they do, because I don't know how it's like in your country, and I don't know how it's like in the region, but I know that in general, societies, or not societies, sorry, that's the completely wrong word. I was going to say communities, but it's not even a community. Like organizations, let's say, like this, do not just concern themselves with killing the largest amount of animals possible. Quite the opposite, rather. They take care and keep in check the number of animals within a certain area. Be those animals herbivores, be they predators, be they, whatever. And they often introduce new species into the... they increase biodiversity. They, again, for the record, this is if everything is done legally. I'm not going to pretend that there are not arseholes and morons out there that do just get on their bikes or cars or whatever and take a machine gun and kill as many animals as they can in a field and then run off home before the police catch them. Things like that exist, believe it or not, everywhere in Europe. They're not very common, but they exist. Things like that do exist. And I'm not going to pretend that they don't, and I'm not going to for a minute defend those people. Like I said, they should be processed to the full extent of the law. I genuinely do believe that. But this is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about hunting in general. Hunting clubs and organizations like this do a lot for nature, do a lot for preserving biodiversity, do a lot to combat monocultures, pollution, to combat overpopulation of certain species, which I dare say the vast majority of the public does not know anything about. If you let a single species overproduce on a small area, it can cause way more damage than packs upon packs of hunters with shotguns, running all over the place for a full year. It's significantly more damage than humans, at least in this aspect, right? Not humans as a species, but in this hunting aspect. And a lot of people don't know about that. So there is a need for these societies, and there's excellent videos out there online about this exact thing. I think there was one taken in Britain where a local hunter explains that, yeah, if we don't do this, if we don't organize hunts against certain predators, against certain herbivores, against rabbits, against this and against that, we're in big trouble, right? The whole ecosystem here is in, it's not going to have a fun time. It's not good. There's going to be huge damage to all the different species that inhabit this area that aren't the ones that are overpopulating. And even then, if you remove one link from the food chain, then the whole chain suffers, right? So, for example, if you have an herbivore species that overpopulates the area and then eats all the plants, well then the plants are gone, and then the herbivores are also going to starve over the course of a longer period of time. Now, Juggernaut, what happened before hunting, right? Well, thing is, before hunting, that also did happen, but they also had more natural predators, and there was more wilderness. Now, wildernesses are, depending on the country, obviously, they're usually contained within a relatively small area. At the very least, in most of Europe, the sort of hunting grounds and the, let's say, unindustrialized and unpopulated areas are very small compared to the farm zones, the industrial zones, the cities, and all the places where wildlife does not thrive. So that's the first issue right there. That that this did happen before, but if it happened on a small local area, it didn't matter because there was a whole larger scheme of things. Now that's not really the thing. That doesn't really exist anymore. So there's a problem with that. But not getting into the economics behind this and the biology behind it too much, people just speak without thinking, I think, on the subject, because it feels good to say something, and it feels good to have the moral high ground, I suppose. But, yeah. Excuse me for a second. A delivery at the door. No, not a delivery of food, though. I think that would have been pretty darn funny given the circumstances. But yeah, that's it, I think, in terms of everything I have to say about the topic. Tell me what you think. I'd love to hear from people that are against hunting as a concept, altogether. Because, like I said, it's different if you're doing it out of ethical reasons and think that, protect animal rights and save them harm and stuff like that. That's an entirely different topic and an entirely different reason. It's also a different thing if you find it just gross to have to kill something yourself, or boring, or, I don't know, far too expensive. Let's not lie to each other, it's not the cheapest thing ever. That's a whole different thing to discuss, and those are very, very valid reasons not to like something. There's plenty of things I don't like. I have no interest in motorsports, for example. I used to watch Formula 1 back in the day with my uncle, but other than that, I have absolutely no interest in motorsports. I find them kind of dull and tedious and pointless, but I know a lot of people that enjoy them, greatly. I'm not calling for motorsports to be banned, though. And I'm not insulting people that do or like motorsports. That's kind of the analogy I'm going for. Maybe it's not the greatest one, because we are talking about, ultimately, killing other living beings, and motorsports is, I guess you could connect it with pollution, and then, sort of bring ecology into the conversation that way, but regardless of the fact, it's, I don't know, it feels just really silly, dumb, and more than anything infuriating to have to deal with stuff like that and to have to listen to comments about things that you genuinely enjoy and you genuinely care for. It's the same with gun control activists and people that talk about that they usually have no idea how firearms work and then continue to, despite this, continue to tell you their opinion on why certain weapons should be banned. It doesn't make any sense, you know. You can't really do that. I wouldn't dare tell Max Verstappen how to get around the corner faster, because I know how to drive, but I don't know how to drive a Formula 1. For the same reason I wouldn't tell, you know, an author how to write his book better, because I'm not an author, right? Well, maybe that's not a great example given my education and what I do, but again, you know, you stick to stuff you know, you stick to the fields that you know, and if you don't, you at least get in the bare minimum effort of trying to acquire some knowledge about a topic before speaking from seemingly a place of authority or a moral high ground or whatever. It's just, I mean, that just makes sense to me, right? Maybe I'm just insane, who knows. I'd love to hear from you guys what you think about the topic, because it's, I mean, yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's weird. It's silly, and it honestly just more than anything pissed me off. It genuinely pissed me off, because it's pretty much like a direct insult. If you like hunting, if you support hunting, you are then, you know, homophobic slur, this kind of slur, that kind of slur, and that's what I've been hearing, and kind of wanted to put down a relatively concise and relatively well-worded and relatively calm explanation to why that doesn't make much sense. Anyways, that's about it from me. Like I said, more than in most of my videos, I'd really like to hear from you guys what you think about the topic, and you know, just tell me if you had maybe similar experiences in your countries and respective places of residence and stuff. I don't know if it's just here. It's been a while like that. Like, hunting has genuinely been frowned upon and bottom line insulted over the past, I don't know, dozen or so years maybe. As it became less and less popular, people became, well, I don't know. Is it too much to say a little bit more entitled and a little bit more delusional about their moral high ground? And I say delusional because, you know, like I mentioned previously, it's one thing to not eat meat and insist on being vegetarian or whatever. That's entirely fine, but it's completely different to, you know, claim that industrial meat is more moral. And that, you know, buying meat from the grocery store and supporting that kind of industry is the moral choice compared to occasionally going out hunting like once a year, or a couple of times a year. Doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. Anywho, that's about it from me, ladies and gents. Thank you very much for watching the video. I'll have yeah, sorry, just a second, I'm a little bit focused here. He is many levels below me, but he is a savage, and they are a little bit difficult to kill, as demonstrated. Okay, there we go, much better. So, anyways, like I said, thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe down below if you enjoyed the video and want to stay tuned with the rest of the content that I produce on the channel. Until next time, have fun, take care, bye-bye.